The moment the divorce papers were in my hand, I immediately cut off all living expenses for my ex-in-laws. When my ex-wife came home and saw her parents weeping in each other's arms, she froze for a second, then pointed at me and roared, "Are you insane? They're my parents." I calmly retorted, "Now, what do they have to do with me?" Her world crumbled in that instant. My name is Chen Mo, 30 years old, a well-paid IT engineer. Just moments ago, I finalized the divorce proceedings with my wife of 5 years, Lin Wan. Stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I didn't look back. I pulled out my phone, opened the banking app with practiced ease, and cancelled the automatic monthly transfer of 20,000 yuan, the unwavering living allowance sent to my ex-father-in-law, Lin Guoqiang, on the first of every month. Next, I cancelled the supplementary credit card for my ex-mother-in-law, Wang Liqin, and unlinked the automatic payments for her residential property fees, utilities, and gas. Then, I halted the monthly 10,000 yuan allowance for her brother, my idol, good-for-nothing ex-brother-in-law. After completing all this, I stared at the series of Operation Successful prompts on my phone screen. The pent-up resentment that had festered in my chest for 5 years finally began to ease, if only by a small breath. Returning to the house that was once called home, the living room was already in complete disarray. Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin, my esteemed former in-laws, sat on the sofa, one slapping his thigh and wailing loudly, the other wiping away tears while cursing. Anyone unaware might have thought the house had been robbed. Lin Wan stood before them, her face still clinging to the last shred of forced dignity she had mustered at the Civil Affairs Bureau entrance, but now it had completely frozen over. She saw me enter, and in those beautiful eyes, a flicker of shock first appeared, followed by blazing fury. "Chen Mo, what have you done?" I ignored her, walked straight to the coffee table, and gently placed that glaringly red divorce certificate in front of her. Lin Wan's breath hitched. She picked up the divorce certificate, opened it, saw the photo of the two of us inside and that cold steel seal, and her body began to tremble uncontrollably. "Mom and Dad's money. It was you who heard it." Her voice sharpened. I responded, my expression unchanged. "Are you crazy?" She finally exploded, pointing at my nose, spittle nearly hitting my face. "They're my parents. Isn't it only right that you give them living expenses every month?" I finally looked up, meeting her gaze, replying word by word. "Now, what do they have to do with me?" Each word, like a basin of ice water, doused all her arrogance. Lin Wan was completely stunned. Her mouth hung open, but not a word came out. Lin Guoqiang behind her snapped to his senses, slapped the sofa, and jumped up. "You ungrateful wretch, Chen Mo, our Wan wasted these years with you. Now that your wings have hardened, you burned the bridge after crossing the river with the divorce certificate. Do you have any conscience?" Wang Liqin joined in wailing. "My poor daughter, how could she marry such a heartless beast? We were truly blind back then. How will we old folks survive now?" Their parents' cries became the best catalyst, pushing Lin Wan completely out of control as she let out a shriek. She lunged at me like a madwoman, her nails aimed straight for my face. "I'll fight you to the death." I sidestepped easily, dodging her attack. Seizing the moment, I grabbed her wrist and twisted it back. Lin Wan cried out in pain, her body firmly restrained by me, unable to move. I leaned close to her ear, whispering in a voice only the two of us could hear, "Don't force my hand. Lin Wan, we're already divorced." My tone was icy, devoid of any warmth. Lin Wan's body stiffened instantly. Her struggling ceased as she turned her head to look at me in disbelief. What she saw was a face she had never seen before, utterly unfamiliar. That Chen Mo who had always been obedient and dutiful to her and her family, was gone. Gone. In his place stood a man with cold eyes, radiating an air of finality. She was afraid. I released my grip and took a step back, straightening my collar, which showed not a single wrinkle. "Chen Mo, may you die a miserable death." Her curse was weak and feeble, no different to me than the buzzing of a mosquito. I didn't spare her another glance. I turned, opened the door, and left. Behind me, Lin Wan's hysterical cries, and her parents' intensified curses echoed. I shut the door, cutting off all the noise. The elevator descended, and in the metal box, my face was reflected, terrifyingly calm, but only I knew that my heart was faintly warming with a long-lost sense of satisfaction. Lin Wan, Lin Guoqiang, Wang Liqin. This show has only just begun. Walking along the tree-lined path in the residential complex, the cries from the building behind me were no longer audible. My mind was chaotic yet clear. The fragments of 5 years of marriage flashed before my eyes like a sped-up black-and-white silent film, frame by frame. They passed. I even remembered 5 years ago, when Lin Wan and I had just married. I held her hand, standing in our new home, bought with all my savings for the down payment, and vowed to her earnestly, Wan, don't worry, from now on, your parents are my parents. I'll take good care of them for you." How naive and laughable I was back then. I thought, I married for love, for that gentle girl who would bring me a bowl of hot soup when I worked overtime. I thought I was taking on responsibility, a man's duty. Little did I know that from the moment I made that promise, I was already stepping into the trap meticulously woven by their entire family. Less than half a year into the marriage, my father-in-law Lin Guoqiang first approached me. He invited me out for tea and hesitantly mentioned he wanted to go into a small business with a friend, but was short 100,000 yuan for working capital. I had just received my year-end bonus, with 150,000 yuan in my card, money I had saved to decorate the children's room. Seeing the hopeful look in my father-in-law's eyes and hearing him describe his grand vision of recouping the investment in a year and doubling it in 2, I didn't hesitate for a second. I transferred all 150,000 yuan to him on the spot. When I told Lin Wan about it, she even praised me for being sensible, saying her father would surely be grateful. As it turned out, that business naturally sank without a trace, never to be heard from again. The 100,000 yuan vanished without even a ripple. Later, my mother-in-law Wang Liqin fell ill, said to be due to years of overwork, with heart problems requiring hospitalization for proper recuperation. During that time, my company was in the middle of a critical project, so busy I barely had time to catch my breath. But every day after work, I still rushed straight to the hospital to register, pay the fees, pick up the medicine, and take care of all her needs, even the most unpleasant tasks. I attended to her day and night for half a month without a break. And Lin Wan, what about Lin Wan? She only showed up occasionally with a basket of fruit, like a supervisor making an inspection, stayed for 10 minutes, took a few photos to post on social media with a caption like, "Mom, get well soon, your daughter is heartbroken," and then made an excuse about work and hurried off. That hospital stay cost me nearly 50,000 yuan. Lin Wan swiped my card without batting an eye. What chilled me to the bone was my own hospitalization. To fulfill their family's dream of buying a large luxury apartment in the city center, I worked myself to the bone, writing code at the office during the day, taking on freelance projects at night, and doing part-time work on weekends. I kept this up non-stop for half a year. I managed to save some money, but my body gave out first. Acute gastric bleeding. I was taken away by ambulance in the middle of the night, lying in the hospital bed, sweating profusely from the pain. I called Lin Wan, on the other end of the line. His tone was impatient. "What's wrong with you in the middle of the night?" "I just fell asleep." I said I was hospitalized for a stomach hemorrhage. She fell silent for a few seconds. Then she asked, "Is it serious? Which hospital are you in? Are the medical expenses expensive?" In that moment, my heart sank halfway. When she rushed to the hospital and saw the bill, her first words weren't about caring for my health, but blame. "How did you manage this? Staying in the hospital costs so much money. How are we supposed to save up for a new house?" I looked at her face, twisted with distress over the money, and for the first time, I began to doubt this marriage of mine. I had naively believed that Lin Wan loved me, that she was just too filial, which was why she obediently followed her parents' demands. It wasn't until I accidentally saw her notebook one time that I discovered this wife I deeply loved had been secretly transferring a monthly filial piety fee to her parents behind my back, an amount far exceeding the fixed 20,000 yuan I gave them each month. And the source of this money was our joint marital account, from which she had been quietly siphoning it out bit by bit. She had never mentioned a single word of it to me. In that moment, I was completely awake now. All that talk of filial piety and being in a difficult position was utter nonsense. In this family of ours, Chen Mo, I was never, ever considered family. I was just a money-making machine, easy to control, a tool for their family of 3 to parasitize and bleed dry. Their attitude toward me had long since shifted from that of a son-in-law to a blatant ATM. They would boast extravagantly in front of relatives and friends about my annual salary, the designer clothes I bought them, the European trips I funded for them, yet they never mentioned that behind this money were countless sleepless nights, my increasingly thinning hair, and my health being drained to the brink. The thought of divorce took root in my heart like a seed. I didn't make a fuss. I didn't argue. I began quietly gathering evidence. Every transfer to Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin, I labeled as a loan. Every chat record where they demanded money from me under various pretexts, I screenshotted and backed up. Every time Lin Wan pressured me to fulfill her parents' unreasonable demands, I recorded it. IOUs, transfer records, chat screenshots. I had them all. The audio files, all these things, were stored in a specially purchased encrypted hard drive, taking up a full 3 gigabytes. Lin Wan knew nothing about it. She continued to enjoy my efforts with a clear conscience, and also indulged her parents' greed without a second thought. She never asked where my money came from, nor did she care about the immense pressure I was under. All she did was squeeze the last bit of value out of me, while seeking new thrills outside. The final straw that broke the camel's back was the footage I saw on the dashcam in her car. She was kissing a stranger in the car. I recognized the man. He was a newly appointed vice president at her company, a slick-haired, pampered rich kid. In the video, she smiled coyly and seductively, telling the man, "Don't rush. I'll divorce that useless husband of mine soon. He's just an ATM. Once I squeeze a bit more out of him, we'll get married." ATM. Useless. In that moment, all my love, all my endurance, All my sacrifices, turned into one colossal joke. I didn't storm in to confront her, nor did I lose my temper on the spot. I just quietly copied the video. And then, I proposed divorce to her. She feigned reluctance for a few words, but seeing my firm stance, she dropped the pretense and readily agreed. She thought I was still the same Chen Mo she could manipulate at will. She thought divorce was merely a stepping stone for her to leap toward a better life. She didn't know that from the moment she betrayed me, the gates of hell had slowly begun to open for her and her family. Divorce wasn't the end. It was the beginning of my revenge. I arrived at a skyscraper in the city's central business district and took the elevator straight to the top floor. The name, Changsheng Law Firm, gleamed under the lights in gilded letters. The receptionist recognized me and greeted me with a smile. Mr. Chen, Attorney Zhang is waiting for you in his office. I nodded and walked straight to the innermost office. Pushing the door open, Zhang Chang was sitting by the huge floor-to-ceiling window, leisurely sipping a cup of pour-over coffee. Seeing me, he set the cup down and stood up. He gave me a firm hug. It's all taken care of, he said, patting my back, offering no further words, but that brotherly concern, I could feel it. Zhang Chang was my college classmate, the brother who slept in the bunk above me, and also the best friend I've ever had in my life. After graduation, I joined a major internet company as a coder, while he, with his sharp tongue and meticulous logic, fought his way through obstacles to become a top partner at this prestigious law firm, specializing in commercial disputes and divorce cases. He has been the mastermind and executor of my revenge plan from the very start. I pulled out the encrypted hard drive filled with evidence from my briefcase, along with a thick stack of paper documents, and placed them on his spacious desk. It's all here. Over the past 5 years, I've transferred a total of $3.78 million to the Lin family. Of that, $1.2 million has clear IOUs, and for the remaining over $2 million, most have chat logs or recordings as supporting evidence. Zhang Chang put on his gold-rimmed glasses, connected the hard drive to his computer, and began swiftly browsing through the files. His expression grew increasingly grave with each click of the mouse. When he saw the video of Lin Wan and that rich second-generation heir in the car, he took off his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. This woman, she really redefines my understanding of human nature. He cursed under his breath. Chen Mo, all these years, you've suffered. I tugged at the corner of my mouth, saying nothing. Suffered? Of course I had, but talking about it now was pointless. You've done well, Zhang Chang said, putting his glasses back on and pointing at the document list on the screen. The chain of evidence is very solid, especially the fact that you had them sign IOUs for every large transfer. That's the most crucial part. As for those without IOUs, we can argue they were conditional gifts. Now that the conditions aren't met, they should be returned. What's the next step? I asked. First the carrot, then the stick, Zhang Chang said, his fingers tapping lightly on the desk, a calculating gleam in his eyes. I'll draft a lawyer's letter immediately, in my name, formally notifying Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin, demanding they repay all debts, principal plus interest, not a penny less. Within 7 working days, I'll make the list extremely detailed, tracing the ins and outs of every single sum, so they know we're not joking around. What if they don't repay? Then all the better. Zhang Chang laughed, his smile like a fox ready to pounce. If they don't repay, then we can legitimately file a lawsuit. Once these pieces of evidence are presented in court, they won't just have to return the money, they'll also lose all face. Just as we were discussing this, my phone rang. It was Lin Wan calling. I glanced at Zhang Chang and put it on speakerphone. As soon as the call connected, Lin Wan's tearful pleading came through. Chen Mo, I'm begging you, please don't treat my parents like this. They're old and not in good health. If you cut off their money, how are they supposed to live? Hearing this familiar emotional blackmail, I felt nothing but disgust. I sneered. If your parents can't survive without money, what does that have to do with me? Lin Wan, aren't you their precious daughter? You're earning over 20,000 a month now. You support them. On the other end, Lin Wan was left speechless for a moment. A few seconds later, her voice returned, the pleading turning into hysterical curses. Chen Mo, you beast. You're not human. I must have been blind to marry you back then. You'll get what's coming to you. I had no interest in listening to her howl any longer and hung up directly. Zhang Chang shook his head at the phone, hopelessly foolish. He picked up the desk phone, dialed the internal line. Xiao Li, come in for a moment. A young, efficient female assistant entered. Attorney Zhang, draft a lawyer's letter immediately. The recipients are Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin, demanding they repay the debt within a specified deadline. I'll send you the specific amount and evidence list shortly. Send it out via the firm's fastest courier, requiring personal signature upon delivery. Understood. After the female assistant left, Attorney Zhang's office returned to quiet. I gazed out the window at the towering buildings, as if I could foresee the look of shock, panic, and furious indignation on the Lin family's faces when that lawyer's letter reached them. Zhang Chang walked over to me, handing me a cup of warm water. This is just the first step. Let them panic first. I took the cup and nodded. I know. I want them to understand that sucking blood comes at a price. In Zhang Chang's eyes, a flicker of approval passed. Good, I'll stand by you. See this through to the end. On the third day after the lawyer's letter was sent out, the Lin family didn't contact me to repay the money as we expected. They chose another path, to stir up trouble. Our family's several hundred-member WeChat group for relatives of both the Chen and Lin families was the first to erupt. The initial attack came from my former brother-in-law, Lin Jia, who posted a long, tearful essay in the group, accusing me, as his sister's husband, of being ungrateful and heartless. How? After my sister Lin Wan grew old and lost her beauty, I kicked her aside and even cut off all the pension money for the two elderly parents, calling me utterly wicked and worse than a beast. Immediately after, Wang Shiqin posted a photo in the group of herself lying in bed with an four drip, captioned, "What sin have I committed, to raise such an ungrateful son-in-law? Are you trying to drive us old folks to our graves?" Lin Guoqiang then reposted various toxic articles about Phoenix men who are ungrateful and abandon their wives after rising to success, hinting at me. In no time, the group exploded. All those distant aunts and uncles from the Lin family jumped out one after another to defend justice for them. Oh, Chen Mo usually seemed so honest. How could he do such a thing? You can know a person's face but not their heart. Wan is truly pitiful, and that man is utterly despicable. If he wants a divorce, fine, but how can he abandon the elderly? He's completely heartless. Most of my relatives were bewildered by this commotion. Only a few close uncles spoke up in my defense in the group chat, but they were quickly drowned out by the Lin family's torrent of accusations. The online attacks hadn't even subsided when the offline harassment began. Early the next morning, Lin Wan showed up at my place. She stood at my doorstep, wailing and making a scene, pounding on the door and screaming, drawing all the neighbors out. "Chen Mo, come out here, you coward, you've ruined my parents, and now you want to ruin me too, get out here." With her hair disheveled and makeup smeared from crying, she'd lost all trace of her usual gentle demeanor, looking every bit like a shrew cursing in a marketplace. The neighbors pointed and whispered, through the peephole. I watched her performance coldly from inside, making no move to go out. I didn't call the police either, because I had long installed a high-definition pinhole camera on the ceiling above the entrance hallway. Her disgraceful tantrum of rolling on the ground and screaming was all clearly recorded. Only after she had made enough of a scene and shouted herself hoarse was she finally persuaded to leave by the property security guards who arrived upon hearing the commotion. I copied the video and sent it directly to Zhang Chang. After watching it, he replied with just 4 words. The time is ripe. That same afternoon, a popular post appeared on a well-known local lifestyle forum. The title read, "Shocking. IT guy earning $1 million a year demands $3 million in alimony from ex-in-laws after divorce. Who's the real bloodsucker?" The post, written from the perspective of an informed neighbor, detailed the scene of Lin Wan's uproar at my doorstep that morning and included a censored video clip. In the video, Lin Wan's image as a shrewish harpy starkly contrasted with the post's implication of a helpless woman forced into a corner. Then, the poster shifted gears and began exposing more details, anonymously posting excerpts from the lawyer's letter I had sent to Zhang Chang. The poster then shifted gears and began exposing more details, anonymously posting excerpts from the lawyer's letter I had sent to Zhang Chang, especially that debt list spanning dozens of pages. Every transfer date and purpose was clearly documented. Rumors circulated that during the marriage, the husband had paid nearly $4 million for the wife's family. From buying houses and cars to daily expenses, even the brother-in-law's pocket money was covered. The wife's family treated the husband as an ATM, draining all his savings before she cheated with a rich second-generation heir. She then planned to transfer marital assets, ultimately leading to the divorce. Now the husband just wants to legally recover some loans, yet the wife's family slanders him as ungrateful. Who's really twisting the truth? The post instantly went viral. Netizens initially drawn by the title thought it was another scumbag story, but after seeing the detailed evidence and expose, opinions shifted immediately. Damn, $4 million. Is this marrying off a daughter or selling one? This woman's family are vampires. So scary. Supporting the husband. Poverty alleviation marriages must be resisted. Paying back what you owe is only right and proper. The woman in the video is absolutely insane, showing no sympathy at all. Public opinion underwent a dramatic reversal within just a few hours. When Lin Wan saw the post, she must have been fuming with rage. Her call came through once again, her tone no longer pleading but filled with furious threats. Chen Mo, how dare you ruin my reputation online? I'm telling you. I finished the call with her, turned on the recording, and replied with a voice as calm as still water. I merely presented the facts. What ruined your reputation? Wasn't me. It was your parents' endless greed and your own blind, bottomless filial piety. Lin Wan, save your breath. Instead of wasting time cursing me here, you'd better think about how to scrape together the money to repay your debts. Oh, and I forgot to mention, the post on the forum is just the beginning. With that, I hung up again. Refreshing the forum, I saw the post's popularity soaring higher and higher. Even a few IDs claiming to be distant relatives of the Lin family began posting anonymous exposés below, confirming the family's long history of laziness and swindling money from relatives and friends. With Lin Guoqiang's gambling habits in his youth, having lost all their family assets, Wang Liqin, who craved vanity, put on a false front of prosperity, racking up a mountain of social debts. Lin Jia was even more of a useless man, all talk and no action. Home shop Ada, already in her 20s, had changed jobs over a dozen times, never sticking with one for more than 3 months. A greedy, shameless, vampiric family image, under the meticulous dissection of netizens, was vividly portrayed. I knew that Lin Wan and her parents couldn't sit still any longer. Their disgraceful behavior was being magnified infinitely under the sunlight, and the real show had just begun. The pressure of public opinion online was like an invisible mountain, suffocating the Lin family. All the aunts and uncles who had once cheered and shouted for them in the family group chat now fell completely silent, afraid to be associated with this family. Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin finally couldn't hold on any longer. They contacted me through a distant elder known to both our families, hinting in their words that they wanted to settle this privately. Xiao Chen, look at how this has blown up. We're all family after all. Why go to such lengths? On the phone, the elder's tone was full of hesitation. Your in-laws were just momentarily confused. They know they were wrong. Could you possibly delete the posts online? As for the money, let's sit down and talk it over slowly. I refused outright. Uncle Wang, it's not that I'm disrespecting you. Repaying debts is only right and proper. If they want to talk, fine. 2 conditions. First, publicly apologize to me and my family in the relatives group chat, clarifying the facts. Second, all the owed money must be repaid in one lump sum. Otherwise, we'll proceed strictly according to legal procedures. Silence fell on the other end of the line. I knew they couldn't meet either of those conditions. An apology would mean admitting they were in the wrong. Their laughable pride wouldn't allow it. And repaying the money, that would be like asking for their lives. Sure enough, the so-called proposal never came up again. As for Lin Wan, she was utterly infuriated by her parents' spineless attitude. She probably felt her reputation was already ruined and had to take a desperate gamble to salvage some dignity. So, she made a decision that even I found utterly foolish. She began wailing and complaining about me all over her company. Ruthless and cruel, she went to her superiors and colleagues, telling everyone how she was deceived by me, a Phoenix man scumbag, emotionally manipulated after marriage, and now driven to desperation by me. She tried to paint herself as a tragic, innocent victim of marriage and persecution by her ex-husband, seeking everyone's sympathy. Unfortunately, she miscalculated one thing. She thought I was still the Chen Mo who had no guard against her. She didn't know that every move she made was within my expectations. Just as she was in the company break room, performing tearfully for a group of colleagues, an anonymous email was quietly sent to everyone in her company. The sender was a temporary email I registered through an overseas server. The recipients were all employees from the CEO to the receptionist. The email's subject was, a few points regarding the personal conduct of Ms. Lin Wan, administrative director of your company. The email content was clear and well organized, with both text and images. The first part detailed how Lin Wan allowed her parents to financially exploit me during our marriage, with attached transfer records and chat screenshots. The third part of the list detailed the Lin family's series of malicious acts, demanding an exorbitant bride price from me, insisting their names be added to the marital home, and forcing me to buy a car for my brother-in-law after marriage. The most damning part was the bank transaction records showing Lin Wan secretly siphoning off joint marital assets to transfer money to her parents and brother, each entry crystal clear. Finally, attached to the email was a video file titled Ms. Lin Wan's passionate moment with the vice president of Tianyue Group. I didn't send the most explicit video, only the clip of them kissing in the car and Lin Wan calling me at spineless ATM. The evidence was irrefutable. Reportedly, the scene was quite spectacular. Lin Wan was weeping pitifully, accusing me of being heartless and ungrateful, while colleagues around her listened, glanced down at their phones, and then, their expressions shifted from sympathy to shock, disdain, and amusement. Even the supervisor of her department had received the email. After viewing it, his face turned ashen, and he glared at Lin Wan as if he wanted to devour her. Lin Wan belatedly sensed the tense atmosphere. She also took out her phone and opened that email that would seal her doom. When she saw those familiar transfer records and those unsightly chat screenshots, especially when she saw the final video, her face instantly flushed red, then turned pale, and finally ashen. All her pretenses, all her lies, crumbled in that moment. She let out a scream, threw her phone away, and rushed out of the company like a madwoman. She hailed a taxi straight to my company, wanting to confront me desperately. Unfortunately, she couldn't even get through the main gate of our building. The dutiful security guard stopped her outside. She screamed and shouted downstairs, my name echoing throughout the entire complex. I sat in my office, quietly writing code. The receptionist called on the internal line, cautiously asking me how to handle the situation. I picked up the phone and simply said, Follow company protocol. Call the police if necessary. Then, I dialed Lin Wan's number. On the other end of the line were her frantic gasps and furious roars. Chen Mo, you devil, why are you doing this to me? I leaned back in my chair, my voice calm as it traveled through the phone line. The words reached her ears. Lin Wan, look up at the sky. What? She froze. What goes around comes around. Everything you're suffering today is the fruit of your own actions. After saying that, I hung up the phone and dragged her number into the blacklist. I knew that from this moment on, Lin Wan's world had completely collapsed. Her proud career, her painstakingly crafted image as a virtuous wife, the vanity and respectability she relied on for survival, all were torn to shreds by my own hands. The storm in the workplace came faster than I imagined, and more fiercely. That anonymous email became the biggest scandal of the year at Lin Wan's company. Almost everyone now knew that the usually gentle, proper, and considerate administrative supervisor was actually such a hypocritical, selfish, and morally corrupt woman in private. Colleagues began to avoid her, whispering behind her back. Even the few sisters who used to be close to her now took detours when they saw her. In the break room, in the restroom, whispers about her were everywhere. Even more fatal was the attitude of the company's higher-ups. Someone who treated marriage as a transaction. An employee who engages in affairs and has poor personal ethics is a huge stain on any company that values corporate culture. On the third day after the incident, the HR director and her department head jointly summoned Lin Wan for a talk. I don't know the details of their conversation, but the result was that Lin Wan was suspended pending investigation. Everyone understood that suspension pending investigation was merely the company's final ultimatum, a polite way to force her to resign voluntarily. Lin Wan was completely panicked, shedding all pretense. She began trying every possible means to contact me. When I blocked her number, she called from different phones. When I blocked her on WeChat, she added me with alternate accounts. Dozens of calls and hundreds of messages poured in daily, their contents ranging from vicious curses, to pitiful pleas, and eventually to threats of self-harm. Just meet me once, let's talk. Okay, I was wrong. I really was wrong. You've ruined me like this. Are you satisfied now? I'll haunt you even as a ghost. If you keep ignoring me, I'll jump from here. I ignored all of it completely. Her parents, Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin, were utterly dumbfounded. They had always believed their daughter's job was an iron rice bowl, their greatest security for the rest of their lives. Now, this sole cash cow was about to collapse, and they were as frantic as ants on a hot pan. They even thought of my parents back in my hometown. They managed to get my parents' phone number through connections and began bombarding them with calls, trying to use the pressure from elders to make me change my mind. Dear-in-law, please talk some sense into Chen Mo. Couples fight but make up quickly. There shouldn't be grudges overnight. Our Wanwan just made a momentary mistake. How can Chen Mo, a grown man, be so petty? My parents were honest, hardworking farmers who were initially taken aback by their tactics, but I had already warned my family beforehand, telling them everything about Lin Wan's affair and the Lin family's bloodsucking behavior. After hearing this, my father immediately cursed Lin Guoqiang over the phone. I'm telling you, don't bother our family anymore. My son and your daughter are already divorced. There's no connection between us. Deal with your own mess. If you dare call again, I'll report you to the police. My mother went even further. After blocking their entire family, and with troubles both inside and out, Lin Wan's spirit completely shattered. And at that moment, I played my final card. I had Zhang Chang formally file a lawsuit in court. The claims were straightforward. Demand that the defendants Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin immediately repay the principal loan of 1.2 million yuan, plus interest from the date of the loan until full repayment. Demand that defendant Lin Wan return the marital assets she secretly transferred and gifted to her parents and younger brother during the marriage, totaling 860,000 yuan. And demand that all three defendants jointly compensate me for emotional damages of 200,000 yuan, with all litigation costs in this case borne by the three defendants. When the court summons and the property preservation order were delivered to Lin Wan, Lin Guoqiang, and Wang Liqin, they were plunged into utter despair. Lin Wan was suspended from her company, losing her only source of income. Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin's meager pensions weren't even enough to cover their daily expenses. Lin Wan began selling off her designer bags and jewelry, but it was a drop in the bucket. She wanted to borrow money from those friends she used to go shopping and have afternoon tea with, but when she called them, they either claimed to be tight on cash or simply didn't answer. She finally tasted the bitterness of being abandoned by all. Occasionally, I would see her posts in the social media feeds of mutual friends, either late-night emo melancholic literature or complaints and pleas for help. I scrolled past expressionlessly, feeling not a shred of pity, only the thrill of long-awaited vengeance. Zhang Chang told me the Lin family was completely in disarray. Lin Guoqiang even tried to flee overnight with his wife and child, hiding in another city, but their ID information was already under court surveillance, leaving them nowhere to escape. I knew the net I had meticulously woven for years was finally about to close. On the day of the trial, the weather was gloomy, and the courtroom was solemn and austere. I sat in the plaintiff's seat, calm and composed. Across from me, the three members of the Lin family in the defendant's box all looked ashen-faced. Lin Wan had applied light makeup, trying to maintain a last shred of dignity, but her trembling hands betrayed her nervousness. Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin, meanwhile, had completely lost their usual arrogance. Like two defeated roosters, they sat there with drooping heads. As the trial began, I, as the plaintiff, followed Zhang Chang's guidance, calmly recounting how the Lin family had, over the past 5 years, step by step treated me like an ATM, subjecting me to endless exploitation. Then, Zhang Chang stood up. Like an experienced hunter, he unhurriedly presented piece after piece of evidence before the court and all those in attendance. Your Honor, please look at the large screen. This shows a total of 113 bank transfers from the plaintiff to the defendants Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin since their marriage. Among these, 17 transactions have explicit IOUs, totaling 1.3 million yuan. Here are the WeChat chat records between both parties. The defendants Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin borrowed money from the plaintiff under the pretexts of cash flow or urgent needs, promising quick repayment. But to this day, not a single cent repaid. On the screen, those staggering figures and the groveling loan requests formed a stark contrast to the two elderly faces now sitting in the defendant's dock. Lin Guoqiang attempted to argue that was our son-in-law's filial offering to us. It was a gift, not a loan. Zhang Chang adjusted his glasses, a mocking smile curling at the corner of his mouth. A gift, Mr. Lin Guoqiang, according to Chinese law, substantial gifts require a clear written gift contract. Do you have one? No? Then it constitutes a loan agreement. Moreover, we have here a signed IOU in your own handwriting. Lin Guoqiang fell silent instantly, his face flushing a deep, liverish red. Next, Zhang Chang turned his focus to Lin Wan. Your Honor, these are the bank transaction records for the defendant, Lin Wan. During the marriage, she repeatedly, transferred large sums of marital assets to her parents and her brother, Lin Jia. Without the plaintiff's knowledge, the total amount exceeds 860,000 yuan. This conduct constitutes the illegal transfer of marital assets. Lin Wan's body began to tremble violently as she started to cry, trying to play the innocent victim once more. I just wanted to be filial to my parents. I was caught in the middle. What else could I do? I was forced into it too. Her sobs were pitiful and moving. But alas, the courtroom is no stage for a performance. The judge only looks at evidence. Zhang Chang didn't give her a chance to continue her act. He snapped his fingers and said to the court clerk, please play the final piece of evidence. Audio file number 001. The next second, a familiar voice echoed clearly through every corner of the courtroom via the speakers. It was Lin Wan's voice. Oh, Mom, don't worry, just use it. Chen Mo's money is basically our family's money anyway. He's an outsider with no parents around. Who else would he spend his money on if not us? He's such a pushover. If I tell him to go east, he wouldn't dare go west. This ATM is ours for the taking. The recording wasn't long, just over 10 seconds, but every word felt like a heavy hammer, smashing brutally into Lin Wan's face and the hearts of the Lin family. The entire courtroom erupted in uproar. From the public gallery came the sound of uncontrollable sobs and murmurs. The judge's brow furrowed tightly, and Lin Wan's crying abruptly ceased. Her face drained of color, turning as pale as paper. She stared at me in disbelief, her eyes filled with terror and despair. She probably couldn't understand until her last breath how that private conversation she had once proudly shared with her mother in her own room had been recorded by me. Wang Liqin, meanwhile, slumped weakly into her chair on the spot, muttering under her breath, it's over, it's all over. The trial concluded, and the judge announced an adjournment. A verdict would be announced on a later date. I stood up, ready to leave with Zhang Chang, when Lin Wan suddenly lunged forward like a madwoman from the defendant's dock. Her target was the briefcase in my hand, which held the hard drive containing all the evidence. Give it back to me, you devil! The bailiffs reacted swiftly. They promptly stepped forward and restrained her. Held by two bailiffs, she continued to struggle and scream uncontrollably, completely losing her composure. I didn't stop walking, nor did I look back at her again. I stepped out of the courthouse doors, and the gloomy sky outside had cleared without me noticing. Sunlight shone on me, warm and comforting. I knew everything was settled. The law would give me a fair verdict, and the Lin family would pay the most painful price for their greed. The judgment result was even better than I had expected. The court ultimately ruled that Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin must, within 10 days, repay me the principal loan of 1.2 million yuan and pay the corresponding interest. Lin Wan must return the 860,000 yuan she secretly transferred from our joint marital property. The three of them must jointly compensate me 100,000 yuan for emotional damages. Moreover, all litigation costs for this case would be borne jointly by the three defendants. On the day the verdict was delivered, Zhang Chang invited me to dinner. He raised his glass and said, Chen Mo, congratulations on finally shaking off these leeches. I smiled, drained my glass in one go. This verdict caused quite a stir locally. Several local media outlets all. The end of poverty alleviation marriage. Man wins lawsuit against ex-wife's family. Awarded millions in compensation. Although the report omitted our real names, combined with the earlier viral posts online, anyone with a bit of insider knowledge could guess it was the Xiong and Lin families. Their reputation was completely ruined within their small social circle. On the day after the verdict was issued, Lin Wan's company formally fired her on the grounds of serious violation of company regulations and personal moral issues causing severe damage to the company's reputation. She lost her income and was saddled with massive debt. She tried to find another job, but her glorious deeds had already spread throughout the entire industry. No reputable company dared to hire her. Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin were so enraged by the verdict that they both fell ill. The house they had pressured me into paying for renovations became their only asset. When the 10-day deadline arrived, they naturally couldn't come up with over 2 million yuan. Without hesitation, I immediately applied to the court for enforcement. The court swiftly seized their property, along with the mere tens of thousands left in their bank account. Their house was listed on a judicial auction website. Due to the urgency to liquidate, the starting bid was set extremely low, and the final sale price barely covered the principal of my debt. The remaining interest and litigation costs were still beyond their means. On moving day, the scene was reportedly quite ugly. Enforcement officers arrived at the door. The 3 members of the Lin family refused to leave, clinging to the house. Wang Liqin threw herself on the floor, thrashing and wailing. Lin Guoqiang pointed at the judge's nose, hurling curses. Lin Wan, holding a cardboard box, sat dazedly in a corner, silent. In the end, they were forcibly evicted from the home they had lived in for half their lives. Homeless, they could only temporarily move into the unused basement of a distant relative's house. The Lin family, once the envy of relatives and friends, had now become a pariah everyone avoided like the plague. Their once bustling home now stood desolate, with not a single visitor. I received the last text message from Lin Wan, sent from an unfamiliar number. Chen Mo, you've destroyed everything for me. I hate you. I won't let you off even as a ghost. I looked calmly at that message. Then, pressing the delete key, I knew I hadn't destroyed her. What destroyed her was her own insatiable greed, and her vampire-like family. My revenge thus came to a perfect conclusion. The apartment Lin Wan and I had shared was also sold by me. With the proceeds from the sale, plus the money the Lin family returned, I bought a spacious flat of my own in a brand new neighborhood. I discarded everything tied to the past, replaced all the furniture, and started a brand new life. I poured more energy into my work, and thanks to my solid skills, I was quickly promoted to the company's technical director, with my salary doubling. In my spare time, I signed up for a fitness class, started running and lifting weights. My body, once weary from years of desk work, grew firm and upright again. Life became fulfilling and peaceful. Zhang Chang helped me handle all the legal follow-up, ensuring the Lin family had no chance to harass me again. Occasionally, we'd meet up for a drink. Looking at my current state, he genuinely felt happy for me. Now, you've truly come back to life. It was probably a weekend afternoon about half a year later. I was handling work at a cafe near my new home. Sunlight streamed in through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows. Warm and gentle, a familiar yet unfamiliar figure walked in through the door. It was Lin Wan. She was wearing a faded t-shirt and a pair of cheap jeans, with unbranded sneakers on her feet. Her hair was casually tied back. Her face was bare, looking haggard, with empty eyes. Compared to the glamorous, brand-clad her from half a year ago, she was like a completely different person. She seemed to have just come in to take shelter from the rain. Not ordering anything, she found a seat in the farthest corner and sat down. I saw her. She saw me too. The moment our eyes met, her body visibly stiffened. In her gaze, a flicker of extremely complex emotions passed through. There was resentment, there was bitterness, but more than anything, it was an indescribable mix of regret and timidity. I just looked at her calmly. I withdrew my gaze and continued typing on my laptop. To me now, she was no different from a stranger. She seemed to want to approach, to say something, but after hesitating for a long time, she just lowered her head, grabbed her cloth bag, turned hurriedly, pushed open the door, and disappeared into the rain. My heart remained completely unmoved. I thought seeing her so down and out would bring me satisfaction, but in reality, all I felt was a deep calm. The old grudges, the tangled love and hate, seemed to truly dissipate with her desolate retreating figure. I suddenly realized that everything I had done, my revenge, perhaps from the very beginning, wasn't about making her suffer, but about freeing myself. And now, I was free. I picked up my coffee and took a gentle sip. The rich bitterness spread on my tongue. Outside the window, the rain gradually stopped, the dark clouds parted, and sunlight bathed the earth once more. Everything was over. As for the aftermath with the Lin family, I heard it all from Zhang Chang, as if listening to a gossip story that had nothing to do with me. It was said that after losing their house and all financial resources, Lin Guoqiang and Wang Liqin completely tore off their masks. Every day in that dark, damp basement, they bickered over trivial matters, each blaming the other for destroying the family. Lin Guoqiang, already in poor health, coupled with long-term alcoholism and depression, soon suffered a stroke, leaving him half paralyzed and bedridden. The exorbitant medical bills became the final straw that broke the family. Wang Liqin, clutching the diagnosis report, begged everywhere for loans, but those relatives and friends they had once taken advantage of, now watched coldly, with no one willing to lend a hand. In an effort to raise money for her father, Lin Wan even considered working at a nightclub, but with no experience, mediocre looks, and a tarnished reputation, she was quickly dismissed. In the end, Lin Guoqiang, unable to afford continued treatment, breathed his last pitifully in a hospital corridor, without even a decent funeral. I'm sorry, having suffered such a heavy blow, Wang Liqin's spirit completely collapsed, drifting between moments of clarity and confusion, becoming half demented. The once influential and glorious Lin family, which had commanded respect among relatives and friends, now only had Lin Wan, worn down by life's hardships, and a demented mother in need of care. Zhang Chang told me all this while I was on vacation by the sea, over the phone, with the sea wind howling. I listened. After a moment of silence, I only said, I understand, without gloating or sympathy. In my heart, it was as calm as the boundless sea before me. I had thought the end of revenge would bring immense pleasure, but when everything truly settled, I realized what I felt was more a sense of peace and release from it all. The pain that once kept me awake at night, the anger that made me grit my teeth, all became insignificant under the passage of time. I had won, but my victory wasn't in seeing their downfall, it was that I had finally won back my own true freedom. Another year passed, and my life had long since settled into a routine. The people and events of the past were almost completely forgotten. One day, I received a letter. It had no signature, and the envelope was somewhat worn, but the address was clearly written. It was my company's address. The handwriting was delicate and graceful. I recognized it. It was Lin Wan's writing. I hesitated for a moment, then opened it. The letter wasn't long, just a single page. To my surprise, there wasn't a single word of complaint or accusation in it. In an extremely calm tone, she described her life over the past year. After her father passed away, she rented a very small apartment and took care of her mentally impaired mother. She found a job washing dishes at a small restaurant, working over 10 hours a day. The pay was meager, but it was just enough for her and her mother to scrape by. She said, this was the first time in her life she had earned every penny with her own hands. It was hard work, but it gave her a sense of peace. In the letter, for the first and only time, she apologized to me. Chen Mo, I'm sorry, the person I used to be, blinded by vanity and foolish filial piety, caused you irreparable harm. I don't seek your forgiveness, because I don't deserve it. It was you who made me see the true selfish and greedy faces of my parents, and who made me realize how laughable and ignorant I was, though the cost was painful. Still, thank you for waking me completely from that false dream. At the end of the letter, she wrote, I'm doing well now. Every day is exhausting, but it feels fulfilling. I hope you find happiness too. I'll always remember the lesson you taught me. After reading the letter, I fell silent for a long time, a mix of emotions swirling in my heart, relief, release, and a faint trace of pity, so subtle even I hadn't noticed it. I didn't reply. I knew she didn't need my response. She wrote this letter not to seek my forgiveness, but to make peace with her own past. She had found her redemption, and I, too, had long found mine. I placed the letter in the bottom drawer of my study. It was no longer a symbol of hatred, rather, it was a distorted past, a witness to a brutal coming of age, the love and hatred of yesteryear. In the end, all dissolved into the present calm and understanding. The story between me and Lin Wan, here, could finally be drawn to a close, a true period. As for the later story, it became much simpler. I resigned from that high-paying but high-pressure job. Using my years of savings and skills, I opened my own smart home design studio, blending cold technology with the warmth of life. My career flourished. I also met the right person, someone I encountered at an industry summit, an independent, confident, smiling girl. We shared common interests and similar visions for the future. We traveled the world together, ate street food from roadside stalls in the dead of night, curled up on the couch watching old movies. With her, I felt a long-lost, light and pure happiness. I was no longer that Chen Mo, suffocated under the weight of my family's burdens. Reborn from the ashes, I became someone who truly understood how to love those who deserve love too. Occasionally, I come across social news and commentaries online about poverty alleviation marriages. I scroll past them calmly. I know those labels that once caused me so much pain no longer have anything to do with me. I'm grateful for that wretched past. It was what shattered me to pieces, but it also made me stronger, more appreciative of the happiness before me, and more aware that choice matters more than effort. My parents came to stay at my new home for a while. Seeing how sweet my girlfriend and I were together, they couldn't stop smiling. They felt genuine relief and pride in my transformation. On a sunny afternoon, I called Zhang Chang. Free this weekend? The usual spot. My treat. Eating. Rare guest. What? Did someone blind annoy you again? His hearty laughter came through the phone. I laughed too. Nothing like that. Just want to have a drink with you. To thank you. Thank me for what? For walking with me through that darkest road. The sun was just right. The breeze gentle. I hung up the phone and stood before the floor-to-ceiling window of my studio, watching the bustling traffic and crowds outside. The corners of my mouth curved upward involuntarily. My new chapter had only just begun.